Hi everyone, I'm currently living in Thailand, which is where all of my new video experiences are set. And I also run the startup publishing house Lost Island Press.
Grand. So I'm also a writer, and I know, at least from my perspective, with the work I'm working on at the moment, deep down there's always a message that writers want to share with the world. So what's your message through all of your writing?
I really like books with morally gray characters. That's typically what I've been writing recently. And I would say a big theme that's been driving a lot of my recent work is this idea of judging people based on first impressions. And no one is all good, no one is all bad. And that's really what is the core concept of, I think, all of my work these days.
Okay, that's interesting. I would lie, I have to agree with you. I love a main character who's not pure but not evil at the same
Yeah.
time. And the readers are constantly trying to figure out, do I like this person? Do I not like this person? I think it's also more relatable to us as humans because we
Yeah.
are naturally that way. Moving on then, there's this book I was reading recently called Do Hard Things. It talks about how society has low expectations for our generation. And youth back in the day were off sailing the world at the age of 13 or inventing stuff. And I
Mm.
would say you're the opposite of the low expectations of society. So, how do you motivate yourself? What keeps you inspired and disciplined?
I think it's kind of hard to say because from a very young age, I've always been really passionate about my creative projects. And I think one thing that's been helpful over the years, is sharing my work and then actually having people read it and actually seeing people connect with my YouTube videos, my writing. That's been a really big motivation for me to keep going. Of course, I write for myself. I enjoy it. I make YouTube videos because I enjoy it too. But having people out there who are supporting what I do is really helpful, I think, to keep me motivated.
Okay. I'm sure your fans will be really happy to hear that they're part of the driving force of your work. So, you mentioned you moved to Thailand. Have you been to Thailand before, or was it your first time getting there when you actually got there?
This was my first time in Thailand.
Oh, wow.
This was my
Okay.
first time moving out of the house at all. So I literally just left my home, my comfort bubble, and came to Thailand. It was definitely a lot of culture shock and very chaotic at first, but I've been living here for a little over 6 months now, I believe, and I love it.
It's great. What has been one of the biggest challenges for you then moving away from home? Because I mean, you're over 8,000 miles away from your family. I moved to boarding school and that's like, not as far. But I know for me,
Mm,
that was a struggle not being able to get back home for certain things. So for you, it must be
right.
phenomenally different.
I wouldn't say that it's that much different, to be honest. The culture shock was a lot at first, but once you kind of get over that, I think you're really facing the same problems as someone who even moves a couple hours away. Just being in a new location with people you don't know and being far away from the normal social group that you hang out with, that was a challenge for me. And especially as an introvert, I had to push myself to go out and meet new people and not just rely solely on internet connection to like get my social quota every day. So that was really hard, is in the beginning, was getting an actual new social group here.
Mm, mm. Do you think that's inspired your writing in any way, or kind of the whole experience of moving?
I did have a scene in my book that was based on, there's a lot of travel in the current book I'm writing, so it's definitely helped me write certain scenes of like homesickness or moving to a new location and things being foreign. So I would say that that helped. But most of all, it would just be all of the unique experiences that I've been able to tap into in a new location that I would not have been able to experience back at home, like training in martial arts in the country that it originates in has been completely different from any martial arts experience I had back in the United States. So experiences like that, especially writing a martial arts based story,
Mm,
have been extremely helpful.
mm. It's understandable. I mean, going on, following from what you said, then your book, I've been watching the YouTube channel, and you've been experiencing all these things so that you can better construct, I guess, your story, whether
Mhm.
it's the martial arts or living with monks. So, can you tell me a little bit about the Belladonna Trilogy, as much as you can tell, because I know it's all under wraps at the moment.
Yes. Well, the Belladonna Trilogy was originally called The Sky Weeps With Us. It was a book I wrote when I was around 10 to 13, and I published it and then later unpublished it. I wasn't proud of it. After moving on from that story, I felt a lot of pressure with my next few books to like make them good since it was a very big failure in my eyes. And after publishing like Leaving Wishville and then Capsule and then Memory Minefield earlier this year, I was trying to decide what story to work on next. And for some reason, even though I had so many other book ideas, this one just kept coming back to me. Felt like I had unfinished business that I needed to resolve. So I needed to like rewrite it, but good this time. So the story itself feels very nostalgic to me. And it's almost like it's weird because I'm almost doing it for my younger self too, because I feel like this is the story that she wanted to be told so bad, but just didn't have the skills to tell. So it feels nice to finally tell this story that my 10 to 13-year-old self wanted to read so bad.
So it's sort of it, I guess it's personal in a way.
Yeah, for sure.
It's lovely. Again, because I guess it's all under wraps, as I said before. But what are you most excited for in your trilogy, if you can share most of the information?
I can say that I'm planning the release for 2023, and I'm very excited for the YouTube content that I have planned. I've never created so much content centered around one of my books before, and I have a lot of really fun, action-packed content that's not just like normal sit down talking about my book videos. So I'm very excited to release those. At the moment, I'm probably working on at least 6 different videos that are related to this book series. So I'm excited for some really big reveals on YouTube, cover reveal. I'm working on some music collaboration type projects that will be coming out very soon. So there's a lot going on that's just like waiting to be released. There's a lot of buildup.
And can I ask, this is just off the whim because you mentioned your first books. How was publishing for you? Did you self-publish your first book?
My first book was technically self-published. I published it through Lost Island Press, which at the time was nothing but like a name. And then it was shortly after that when I started to develop Lost Island Press into an actual publishing company. And so I would consider that I published my work through my own publishing house.
I mean, tell me about how that came about and how you got the team together and how it became a publishing company, because that's a big feat for you're 19 now, aren't you? Yeah, to own your own publishing company. So share.
Yeah, it was a very slow and confusing process in the beginning. I kind of knew the direction I wanted to go, but I had no idea how to frame it. And the financial side of it was really confusing to me. But it was just a very slow development of it as a side project. And then over time, it slowly picked up momentum. A lot of the people on the team were either people who reached out to me in the very early stages of development and were like, hey, I want to help out. And then the other people on the team were people I personally reached out to because I needed their services with cover design work or interior formatting or marketing. And so slowly over time was just building more connections. And this has been going on since I was probably 17, I believe, was when I started it. So it's been at least a couple years now. And everything just happened very slowly and organically, I would say. It wasn't something that I was staying up all night working on day after day, but it was definitely going on in the background all the time.
So going back to your career, because I guess your publishing company and writing are in a way that you didn't go to college, if I'm correct. How come, and is that something that if you look back, do you regret? Do you plan on going in the future? What's the story surrounding that?
I was always a very good student growing up. So when the thought first came to me of not going to college, it was a shock, like even to me. But I would say it really started to affect me during junior year of high school. That was actually my last year because I graduated a bit early. So it was between Leaving Wishville and Capsule's release, I'm pretty sure. But it was during a time when I was starting to put more effort into my publishing house. And I realized that I was really passionate about not just writing, but also the more technical side and the financial side and everything else, all the various moving parts. I was really, really excited about bringing the publishing house from like the ground up And pretty much I started to treat it as an actual startup. And I was balancing that with also writing my own projects in YouTube and school. And I got to a point where school was starting to feel more of like a distraction from other productive things that I really wanted to do. And during that period of time, I realized that I could study business in college, but I thought hands-on experience and actually working on the publishing house and all of these different projects would be more beneficial to me and save me money. So that's how I kind of came to that decision. I think it's different for everyone. I wouldn't recommend that any entrepreneur just not go to college. But for some people, I think it can be a good choice. And looking back, I definitely don't regret it as of now. It's been, I think, a year and a half, 2 years since then.
Can I say the way that you're living your life and the career you've created for yourself is in some ways unconventional. And I've noticed that quite a lot in many different people I've interviewed who are in our generation, that whether they're a YouTuber or whatever they're doing, the way they've gotten there, they've sort of carved out their own path. So I was wondering, do you think that for our generation and possibly future generations, we will see more of this career carving and there'll be less traditional going to college and finding a conventional job?
I think definitely, especially because the internet has opened up so many opportunities. If you look hard enough and work hard enough, you can find successful careers without a degree. And I think that is relatively new in our generation. So I think as time goes on, people will begin to develop their own skills on their own and probably won't need to go to college unless they need a specific career, like becoming a doctor or something that really requires, certification. But I think there are so many, especially in business, which was what I was considering for a long time. There are a lot of ways you can get involved in business, which is very general, without going to college, in my opinion.
Okay, that's my final question: is what's the plan for the future? Do you, in the next few years, what are some of your hopes and dreams? Are you still going to be in Thailand? Will we find you somewhere else in Japan? Maybe. What's the trajectory? Or is that?
Yeah, I haven't talked about this much. I am planning to do more travel. This was kind of my beginning plan, was to go to Thailand for a year and then after that travel more frequently. So I'm expecting to travel a lot more in the next couple of years. And other than that, I think I'll just be continuing what I'm doing now, just in different locations. I really like the lifestyle that I have right now, and as long as I'm able to sustain it, I think I'll keep it the way it is.
Okay. Out of curiosity, how do you manage to sustain that financially? Because again, you're incredibly young, so...
YouTube has been huge for me. Book publishing as well. It was definitely slow. I've been working on the whole monetization stuff since I was in high school. And I think had I not started it back then, I wouldn't be where I am now, and I wouldn't be able to financially be okay right now and be so financially independent. So looking back, I'm very grateful I started everything back when I was so young, because even back then when it was just a hobby, when it seemed like it was going nowhere, I never would have expected that it would lead me to this situation right now. Yeah. So for anyone who wants to do something like this, that would be my main advice, is to just get started as soon as possible, get started now. Don't wait until you feel like you're ready, like the sooner the better.